Aloha everyone, my name is Mark, and today we're going to plan and design a user persona in Adobe XD in just 6 steps. Are you ready? Let's go! So in the last video, I covered the 3 steps and 9 simple questions you need to formulate and write a user persona. If you missed that, be sure and click on the card right up there. In this video, we're going to take the user persona that we created for Akamai websites and put a little bit of meat on those bones. This is my 6-step process for designing a user persona to deliver to a client. Because here's the deal. If you're writing a user persona that's just full of a big block of text for your client, odds are they're probably going to fall asleep. We want to present all that information in a concise visual format that they can just take a glance at and get a real feeling for who this person is and how to communicate and resonate with that person. Now, you might be wondering, who am I? Well, my name is Mark and I've been a web designer for over 20 years, and I also teach web design at the University of Hawaii, West Oahu. And Akamai Websites is where I help new and aspiring web designers level up their professional and freelancing game with tips, techniques, and tutorials on how to go from low to pro. I'm excited for today's video because I finally get to get behind the keyboard. So let's go and jump onto the computer right now. Before I give you a direct look at how I work in Adobe XD to create and design a user persona, let's take a look at what we came up with in the last video. So this is step 1. We'll take the ideas I came up with for the Akamai website's user persona, Sammy the student, and bullet point out all the list of answers to those 9 questions. Plus, we'll fill in a few of those details that fell through the cracks, such as his location, hobbies, and a few other things. Now, I might not use all of this in the final user persona design, but it is better to trim than to add. So here we have a list that I wrote up providing more details. I went ahead and fleshed out a bunch of stuff so that we have a fuller picture of what Sammy is all about. Alright, so step 2 of this process is to start sketching out some ideas either on paper or, in my case, an iPad. First, I'll sketch out the bare minimum of information, and I'll have an image, some stats, his needs, goals, barriers to those goals, things like that. Next, I'll also make room for a bio, preferred brands, social networks, technology background, education, and other things. There is no perfect answer here. It's really about finding a nice balance between imagery and information. You're essentially designing an infographic, and if you have a lot of data to include, then you might want to include some graphs or charts as well. In this case, I'm going to make a few circle graphs to present his technical abilities, since that is a key part of how to acclimate him to the web design process. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. What's next? Well, after that is step 3. I like to jump into Adobe XD and start fleshing out what I just sketched. I create a wireframe just to make sure things are balanced. A wireframe is basically a really simple version of a layout. A lot of grayscale, boxes, and placeholders. If you already have a really strong idea of what you want visually, this might be an optional step for you, but for the sake of providing a complete look, I'm going to dive into this right now. So here we are in the Adobe XD launch screen, and by the way, if you'd like me to make a video on the basics of using Adobe XD, just let me know in the comments below and I'll add that to the queue. Adobe.com also has some awesome resources. I suggest checking out Howard Pinsky's channel too. He is the chief evangelist for XD at Adobe, and I'll be sure to link to his channel in the description below this video. Okay, so wireframing. Here we go. I'm going to select a standard web size for the artboard. Next, I'm going to drag in the image I sketched out so that I have a reference. Then, I'm going to start blocking off the various areas from the sketch with the rectangle and circle tools to get those general shapes in. I tend to use some combination of black and white and gray to provide some hierarchical context to what I'm building. And there we have it, a nice wireframe of a user persona. Let's go ahead and make a duplicate of that artboard so we can always go back to the original if needed. I'll name this new one Sammy the Student User Persona. Next up is step 4, which is creating the visual mockups. Part of this is to get inspired for what I'm going to create. Now, I typically already have a template for user personas that I will use for client work, but since some of you might be new to this, I wanted to show you how I would approach this whole thing from scratch with no previously designed user persona template already on my hard drive. Before I get into the design phase, I'd like to check out designs on Behance, Google Image Search, or Dribbble for a bit of inspiration. I'll speed up that process so we can see what I ended up with. You'll notice I'm also setting up a user persona and general layout design inspiration folder on my computer so I can always go back and reference any awesome looking stuff I see in my travels. So here we are, and I found some really cool design elements that I'd love to incorporate in what I'm doing. I'm going to place those in a new Inspirations artboard off to the side so I can look at them as I go. Again, I'll speed things up here a bit so you don't have to sit through all the humming and hawing while I work on these designs. The other thing to mention is that you should have some sort of design system based on the brand you're designing for. So in the case with Akamai websites, I've set up some color swatches as well as type examples and the logo so I can integrate those into the design. If you're creating this for a client, then you could use their brand as the main design system, but be sure to include some small reference to you and your brand. Something like designed by Mark Moran at Akamai websites on September 10th, 2020, for example. Nothing too obnoxious. Using the client's brand is also a nice way of making them feel special and that this is a custom design just for them, even if you're actually just repeating design layouts from other clients. So here we are. The design is looking pretty good, but I would like to take it one step further, and that is step 5, prototyping. Adobe XD has some great prototyping tools that I'd like to use to make this a bit more interactive. An at-a-glance view of all the content is great, but what if there was a way the viewer could click on an element to get some more of those details that we left out? I'm going to set up some other artboards or components that I can use to get this effect. A bit of animation and linking between elements in the design should help make that happen. Alright, so I think I'm pretty happy with how this looks. It could be improved and tweaked, but we only have so many hours in the day and sometimes you just have to draw a line in the sand and submit your designs to the client. And sharing the design is step 6. Of course, XD has some great sharing features too. With the free version of Adobe XD, you can only share one project prototype at a time, but this will at least allow you to get this to the client. In the August 2020 release of XD, they also provided a way to create multiple workflows with the same UX document, which is fantastic. You can provide different links for each workflow of your screens. So, for example, on this document, when I get into the sitemap phase, which will be in the next video, so be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for that, I could have one part of the document that is a link to this user persona and set up a different workflow with a link to the sitemap. Before, you could only do one link per document, so this is a big step up in convenience. Okay, enough about that, let's get back into it. So here is the shared design on the web. One thing I want to mention is that I will typically provide an onboarding video for how to use this system to clients. They don't automatically know how to leave comments, pin comments, or use the other features, so it's helpful to give them some guidance. And creating onboarding systems for clients is a huge topic that I'm definitely going to explore more fully in this channel, so be sure you are subscribed and have the bell notification turned on so you can be informed whenever I put out a new video. Okay, so there you have it. I took the user persona that I wrote in the last video, card right there, and created a graphical user persona in Adobe XD. Let's sum up what we covered today.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
There are 6 steps to this process. Step 1. Write it out. Make a bullet point list of all the details you need for your user persona based on the answers to those 9 questions we talked about in the last video. Step 2. Sketch it out. Get your pencil on a piece of paper or your stylus on a tablet and sketch out the layout you'd like to use. Step 3. Frame it out. This is semi-optional, but you can wireframe out your design in Adobe XD to get the general structure figured out. Step 4. Mock it up. Using some inspiration, either your own or from the web, create your high-fidelity mockups in Adobe XD. Step 5. Prototype it out. If you want to level up, add some interactivity to your design. Now, just do this if it helps. No need to complicate things if your persona is relatively simple to start with. And finally, step 6, send it out. Get that link to your client and don't forget to show them how to use the system to provide you with valuable feedback. So now it's time for the question of the day. What is your favorite design tool? Is it XD or Figma, Photoshop, Illustrator, Balsamic, pen and paper? What do you like to use? What's your tool of preference? Let me know in the comments below. You know, I once knew a guy that designed logos in InDesign using the pen tool. Why not Illustrator? I don't know. Right, I know. Insane. So that's it for today. Next week, I'm going to share the next phase of the discovery process, which is creating a map for your website, appropriately named a sitemap. Hit that subscribe button and the bell notification. And if you found this video useful or helpful in your design journey, be sure and hit that like button. I'm sorry. Right. Smash that like button. I'm getting it. Yeah. I'll get there. I just got to learn all this jargon, you know, YouTube jargon. Thanks so much for watching and being a part of the Akamai website's family, or Ohana, as we say here in Hawaii.
Ohana means family.
Have an awesome day, and until next time, stay Akamai.